My name is Charlotte, and I am 39 years old. People in my town call me the strong woman. They don't say it with admiration, they say it with confusion, because strength to them means smiling through disaster, and I did. I separated from my husband 2 years ago. A quiet, devastating end to a marriage that died long before I walked away. But leaving didn't heal me. It simply made space for the loneliness to echo louder. I work as a senior nurse in a small, older hospital, the kind where the hallways smell like floor polish and time moves a little slower. Every night, the same routine: check vitals, change dressings, write charts, and go home to a quiet apartment. That feels too large for one person. I wasn't looking for love. I wasn't even looking to feel anything. Then Elias arrived, a man in his early 40s, brought in after a tree fell on his car during a storm. Nothing fatal, but he was badly shaken. When they wheeled him in, I remember thinking he looked like someone who had been holding the world on his back for too long. But that's not what made me fall. Not yet. The first night, he barely spoke. He watched the rain through the window, his eyes tired but strangely calm. I checked his bandages, and he whispered, "You have the hands of someone who has suffered, but learned how to hide it." It startled me. No one had ever looked through me like that. But still, admiration isn't enough to make a woman like me fall. The real moment came on the third night. A young boy around 10 had been admitted after a bad asthma attack. His parents were frantic, shouting at each other, the child crying, struggling to breathe. I was trying to calm the boy when suddenly his mother fainted. Full collapse, hitting the floor. The room erupted into panic. I called for backup, but before help arrived, Elias, with one good arm and stitches still fresh, slowly got out of his bed and walked into our chaos. His hospital gown hanging off his shoulder, his face pale with pain, but his voice steady. He knelt beside the boy, ignoring his own injury, and whispered, "You are safe. Look at me. Breathe with me. In and out." And the boy did. He calmed. He followed the rhythm of a stranger who found gentleness even through pain. When staff rushed in, Elias quietly stepped aside, almost embarrassed to be seen doing good. That moment, that was the moment my heart cracked open. Not because he helped, many men help, but because of the way he did it, softly, humbly, without needing to be a hero. Later that night, I went to check on him. His stitches had reopened. He winced, but didn't complain. "You shouldn't have gotten up," I said. He looked at me with those tired, honest eyes and asked, "Would you have watched a child choke just to protect a wound?" I didn't know what to say. He then added quietly, "You remind me of someone who saves people, but doesn't let anyone save her. No one had ever said something so painfully accurate about me. It wasn't romance, it wasn't attraction, it was recognition. Two worn out souls seeing each other clearly for the first time. From then on, our conversations became deeper. He didn't flirt, he didn't try to charm. He simply existed in a way that made my loneliness feel less sharp. And that is why I fell. Not because I am weak, but because I finally met someone whose heart spoke the same language as mine. On the day he was discharged, he held his bag in his one good hand and said, "Charlotte, if life were kinder, I think we would have met years ago." I didn't reply. I couldn't. Some truths are too heavy to speak. He left slowly, stopping at the doorway to give me one last look. The kind of look that feels like a goodbye and a confession at the same time. I stayed in the hallway after he disappeared, my hands trembling, my chest full of love that had no place to live. I loved my patient, not recklessly, not foolishly, but in the quiet, painful way only grown hearts understand.